Free Julian Assange!
Jail the real criminals, not the ones exposing them.
Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
We all deserve to know the truth.
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
Jail the war criminals!
Jail the war criminals! The truth is not a crime! Truth is not a crime! Truth is not a crime!
Hello everyone, welcome to the Sydney Vigil.
It's not a crime!
It's so good to see so many of us here today, and hopefully you people here who don't know yet about Julian, maybe today will be a turning point. Coming here today shows you care about truth and justice, and you're willing to be counted as someone who stands with Julian Assange, an Australian citizen being ignored by his own government. Only public support will now get their attention. In the words of Julian Assange, there is unity in the oppression. Therefore, there must be absolute unity and determination in the response. This is why we must gather and put all of our collective energy into countering Julian's oppressors. The attack on Julian's freedom is an attack on freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and the right to hold our governments accountable. This rally is just one of 11 being held around the world today. London supporters organised theirs to take place outside Belmarsh prison, coinciding with Julian's release, and called for other cities to join them in this global action of solidarity. Julian Assange should have walked free last Monday after officially serving out his 50-week sentence for seeking and receiving asylum. However, on September 13th, a British judge called a technical hearing and without Julian's lawyers present, ruled that his detention in Belmarsh was to be extended indefinitely while he awaits the US extradition trial starting in February. The judge denied bail without there even being a request for bail. This is an absolute travesty that the Australian government and media can no longer ignore. Julian Assange is now officially being held without charge by the UK solely on the US behalf. There is no other term for him than political prisoner. In May, UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, Neil Meltzer's report found Julian had been exposed to prolonged psychological torture and ill treatment, and yet Britain continues to ignore that official report. This should have triggered prompt and impartial investigations as required by the Convention Against Torture. Since then, Julian continues to lose weight while being held in the prison's health ward. His brother Gabriel recently visited and was deeply moved by the harsh conditions Julian is enduring. Assange has been so isolated that he can lose track of the date and the day of the week. When supporters came to Belmarsh on his birthday, he could hear them but couldn't make out what they were saying. Julian didn't know it was his birthday, only finding out the next day. While Scott Morrison remains silent, he shows his agreeance with this inhumane treatment and complicity with the US and UK government's decade-long persecution. Of course, this is no different to the 4 Prime Ministers before him, but right now Julian is incarcerated in a maximum security prison, spending 22 hours a day alone in a cell, literally in solitary confinement. Across Australia, rallies are underway. Together with us here, supporters from Melbourne, Brisbane and Adelaide gather to demand the Australian government to immediately fulfil its undeniable responsibility to protect Julian Assange. We won't put up with our government turning a blind eye to this Australian hero any longer. We demand democratic principles be upheld. We demand for Julian's human rights to be upheld. We demand he receives fair treatment as someone being held without charges against him, to be released from prison in order to prepare the lengthy extradition process so he gets a fair trial. Julian has been persecuted since 2010 because of publishing inconvenient truths. Spied upon 24/7 in the embassy. We do not accept this state persecution any longer. He has endured more than he should reasonably have had to. The state has punished him for the act of publishing government crimes in our name, and enough is enough. We simply demand the immediate release of Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
Sacrifice.
It's good to see a few more people here than we had last time, and hopefully this will grow. People everywhere in the world are thinking to themselves, what can we do? Because Australia's not the only country with a dud government. There are dud governments from one end of this planet to the other. People sitting in little boxes with their minds closed. But they hold a lot of power. And at this moment our government is subliminally fighting for the Saudi Arabians against the peace-loving peoples of the world. They're fighting for dreadful regimes all over the world, and they're using our money, our taxes, and our facilities to do this. That we have to fight. How can we fight? Everyone says there's nothing we can do. We're individuals. We're small. You can write to your local member and he'll file it in the bin where he files everything. We have no political system here. We have no press. And freeing the press for what? Freeing the press to do nothing in our name? Have you opened the paper lately? Have you opened up the Herald? What does it say about Assange? Nothing. What does it say about Saudi Arabia? Nothing. What does it say about the real political situation in the world? Nothing. We have been told nothing. It's up to us now to get together in small groups and fight. And the way we can do that is by talking and by playing music and by sharing ideas. In the old days we used to do that in pubs, but we can't do it in pubs anymore because the pokies have got the pubs. So where do we speak? Okay. There. We're really bringing out for Julian there. Okay, so where do we speak? Well, we've got a movement called the Freedom Frenzy movement, which is organising small gigs with bands. We've got numerous bands, artists, comedians, dancers, singers who are putting up their hands to support Julian, to get him out of jail, to get Chelsea out of jail, but more importantly to keep us out of jail. We can't talk anymore, and when we do, we're followed. Our children are being followed on Facebook by a monstrous regime. And just because they're not knocking at your door now doesn't mean they won't knock on your door one day. So get together. Freedom Frenzy. Look at it on Facebook. If you need help, if you need entertainers, if you need artists to come and help you, we're there to help you. We are going to start this movement from the ground up. We're going to enter every little hole in Australia, globally, and we're going to take back the freedom of speech. We'll get together, we'll talk together, we'll enjoy our lives, and we'll make sure that our heroes are free to help us. We must help Julian Assange. Everyone must help Julian Assange. Okay, so let's get out and fight. You know, there's enough of us. There's more good people in this world than there are evil politicians and lazy journalists. The real people are good. We are good. And we should get together. We're no use alone in little rooms, pulling our hair out, wondering what we can do. We've got to get together. We've got to meet, we've got to speak, and we've got to join freedom. That's what we have. That's right. Okay, thank you.
I wish I could be there with you all today to join you in expressing solidarity with our fellow Australian citizen and fellow human being, Julian Assange, who is suffering an increasingly brutal, increasingly alarming and increasingly brazen political persecution for journalism. As Julian Assange lies isolated, medicated and silenced under maximum security lockdown in Belmarsh prison, charged with no crime, his fellow award-winning Australian journalist John Pilger will be accepting the Gavin McFadden Award on his behalf today. Remarkably, the reason that Julian Assange cannot accept the award himself is that he is imprisoned over the very same journalistic activities that have won him a host of other awards and prizes, including the Sydney Peace Prize, Amnesty International's New Media Prize, Time Magazine Person of the Year, Reader's Choice, and Martha Gellhorn Prize for Journalism, and many others. Not least of which is Australia's own Walkley Award for most outstanding contribution to journalism for his reporting on war crimes in Iraq and Afghanistan as exposed by courageous whistleblower Chelsea Manning, and the reason why he faces the prospect of 175 years in a US prison. This and this alone is the reason Julian Assange languishes in Belmarsh prison today. With Julian's concocted bail infringement sentence having come to an end, a US magistrate ruled that instead of receiving bail, Julian Assange will be held in prison indefinitely pending US extradition hearings. Such an outcome is extraordinary in a so-called democracy. A publisher is to be held in prison indefinitely under no sentence, with no outstanding warrant or charge in place, whether in the UK or in Sweden. In other words, today is day 6 of Julian Assange being openly, blatantly, unapologetically imprisoned in a US supermax for no other reason than having performed journalism, award-winning, highly lauded journalism. All other legal pretexts for his incarceration have fallen away. What is left is the naked reality of a political persecution, with not a peep of objection from the Australian government. As if that weren't tyranny enough, Julian Assange is not simply being held political prisoner. He is being held in solitary confinement without access to lawyers, a computer, or legal documents, rendering him unable to prepare his defence against US extradition, as is his human right. In short, the US has systematically rendered Julian Assange defenceless against the precedent setting, extraterritorial US pursuit of a publisher for journalism. The devastating implications to democratic and human rights, rule of law and journalistic freedoms cannot be overstated. No societies that treat their journalists this way can expect to hold their leaders accountable over any issues of serious political concern. Public concern, let alone to have their own rights as citizens respected. The blatant jettisoning of rule of law in Julian Assange's case places us all at a very serious crossroads for our democracies. This is not just about Julian Assange. It is about the kind of world we are leaving for future generations and to our kids. I commend every single one of you here today for recognising the seriousness of this threat and for showing your support for journalism, for whistleblowers, for human rights, democratic freedoms and rule of law. Long live real journalism. Long live whistleblowers and their protections. Long live Julian Assange, and long live the rights and freedoms that he is fighting to defend. Shame on the Australian government.
Shame! Shame! Say no to US extradition!
George Bush wants free, Julian doesn't. Dick Cheney wants free, Julian doesn't. John Howard wants free, Julian doesn't. John Bolton wants free, but Julian and Chelsea don't.
Free the
You
truth,
work that
free
one out.
Assange, don't shoot the messenger! Free the truth, free Assange!
Don't shoot the messenger!
Free the truth, free Assange!
Don't shoot the messenger!
Free the truth, free Assange!
Don't shoot the messenger!
Free the truth, free Assange!
Don't shoot the messenger!
Free the truth, free Assange!
Don't shoot the messenger!
Free the truth, free Assange!
Don't shoot the messenger!
Free the truth, free Assange!
Don't shoot the messenger!
Free the truth, free Assange!
Don't shoot the messenger!
Free the truth, free Assange!
Don't shoot the messenger!
Free the truth, free Assange!
Don't shoot the messenger!
Free the truth, free Assange!
Don't shoot the messenger!
Free the truth, free Assange!
Don't shoot the messenger!
Free the truth, free Assange!
Don't shoot the messenger!
Free Assange!
Don't shoot the messenger!
They've come for Julian Assange, they've come for Chelsea Manning, they've come for Edward Snowden, and they will come for you. And who is going to protect you?
Free press, no censorship.
Julian's fighting for our freedom. We've got to fight for his. Stand up for Julian Assange.